Hi friends, it's Lauren Taylor. Thanks for joining me in my craft room today for a Pretty Pink Posh project video. I'm so excited to combine this adorable Fresh Berries stamp set that's been previously released from Pretty Pink Posh with new Valentine's Day themed products using Valentine greetings, the XOXO pierced plate. I'm also going to be creating a shaker today using the double heart shaker dies, and I'm going to be filling those shakers with some new mixes. I'm going to be using the Love shaker beads and strawberry Valentine mix. When I saw this new shaker mix, I knew that I had to bring in some strawberries that were from a previous release because I think they're going to pair perfectly with this new shaker confetti mix. So I went ahead and stamped out my images from the Fresh Berries stamp set, and I stamped them in a black alcohol marker friendly ink on some alcohol marker friendly white cardstock, and I'm using Olo markers to color today. For my strawberries, I'm going to use a combination of 3 different red colors. So I'm starting with my darkest shade of R0.5, and I'm adding it more towards the bottom and top of my strawberry. Then I'm going to bring in a mid-tone and bring that color R0.4 in, and I'm going to color a little bit over what I've already colored with the darkest, and then kind of extend that color more into the white area. And I'll do that on the bottom as well as the top of my strawberry. As you can see, I also left a little bit of white around the edge of my strawberry, and I'm going to color that in as well as the remaining white area with R0.3, which is the lightest of my 3 shades. I'm going to go ahead and do my best to color around all those little strawberry seeds while blending in all those reds together to give it more of a seamless but shiny strawberry look. For the seeds themselves, I'm going to bring in a brown color. So I'm using OR 7.2, and I'm going to color those twice. I'm going to go over it once, and then I'm going to go over it again just to make them a little bit darker, but I wanted them to have that brown strawberry seed look. For the tops of my strawberries, I'm going to use some greens, and I'm going to use 2 colors, G1.5 and G1.4. I'm trying to add a little bit of dimension to the leaves. They don't look super flat, but you could color these in very cartoon as well by just, starting with the darkest color as a little line and then coloring in the rest of the leaves with the lighter color. And I'm going to repeat all of this for the rest of the strawberries and leaves on the card, but I'm just going to show you how I colored in one as well as one of the little flowers. So I'm taking Y2.3 and Y2.2 to color the center of the flower, and while I want these little flowers to be white, I still wanted them to have a little bit of a yellowish hue, so I'm using Y2.0 and my blender to just add a little bit of pretty pale yellow color. I'm going to take the darkest color red and darkest color green that I use just to add a little bit of stippling and texture to my image. And then I'm also going to bring in a white gel pen and add some highlights. So I'm going to show you how I did this strawberry, and then I'll go ahead and color and add highlights to the remaining images once I'm done. I'm wanting to just give that strawberry a nice little glow even around some of the seeds, so I like to add just little lines and dots around the images just to give it that shiny cartoon look. Once all my images were colored, I'm going to move on to darkening up my strawberry or my berry box. I stamped this on some craft cardstock in a brown ink, and I'm going to use some repositionable masking tape to section off the areas where I don't want my distress ink to go. So I'm going to add some shadow using distress ink. I'm using Vintage Photo from Ranger, and I'm using a blending brush just to add a little bit of dimension to this berry box. I did not use an alcohol marker friendly ink when I stamped it, so I'm going to use some inks instead to color them and just give it a little bit of dimension. So once I added the color to the bottom of the berry box, I'm going to bring my masking tape up and do a little bit at the very top of the box because there are 2 sections in the design, and I want to give this top section a little bit of shadow as well. I realized right about here that I probably should have masked off the top of the berry box so the color didn't extend out. You can kind of see it a little bit, but once it's die cut, you can't tell that I went outside the lines in those 2 little areas. Now that all of my images are colored, I'm going to use the coordinating dies to cut them out, and you can see how fun those turned out. I also added some white highlights to the berry basket as well, and they just really have a really fun, fresh look to them. I'm going to grab some red cardstock, and I'm going to use the solid double heart die. Again, this is the double heart shaker die, to die cut the base of my shaker or the outline of my shaker out of red cardstock. And I use the XOXO pierce die to die cut my background out of some white cardstock. I actually die cut two because I wanted to create a second card, and I'm going to use it later, and I'll explain why once I get there. Then for the shaker window part, you could use these dies on their own. You don't have to use the shaker inserts to make a frame, which I think is so cool. And I love that they're separated so you can create just one heart shaker instead of two. I think it's really cool how versatile this die set is. Once I have the inner parts, because I'm making a frame in place, I'm using some repositionable tape to keep those while I run it through my die cut machine. And there you can see my double heart frame is ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and place these dies back in the packaging, but then I will grab them right back again because I need to figure out how to apply the acetate of my shaker. Now I know that I could run the large die through my die cutting machine with some acetate, but my acetate is a little on the thicker side, and so I have a hard time creating the acetate outline for shaped images like this. So what I'm going to do is take the inside part, which helped create the frame, and I'm going to use the acetate, and I'm going to just use some scissors, and I'm going to cut around the frame. I'm sorry, I'm a little off camera here, but I am just following the edge of the frame, and I'm cutting it larger than the frame. I'm just using it as a guide to know the shape that I need to create for my shaker. Again, I think I'm doing it a little bit the hard way in today's video. You could definitely run the larger die, so the one that creates the two full solid hearts, through your die cutting machine with acetate, and if it doesn't cut all the way through, just follow the line with your scissors and cut it out. I'm definitely making it harder than I need to right here, but in my head it made sense. I'm just cutting around the frame, and it's going to help me create the window. So because I cut around it slightly larger, I know that it will fit in the window of my frame. So once you have your window sheet ready to go, again, you could have just cut it out of one piece of acetate. And I have two little windows because I use the inside dies as a guide of how to cut my acetate. So now we're going to glue it to the frame. I'm going to use some liquid glue because these are pretty thin frame pieces. So I added some liquid glue, and I'm going to attach my acetate, and there is still some paper showing. So when I add my foam adhesive, I'll be able to really make sure that there is good adhesion of my acetate to the paper frame. So I went ahead and did the back heart first, and now I'm going to add the larger or the full heart. Again, just using liquid adhesive to attach the acetate to the back side of my frame. My glass board here is magnetic, so I'm using some magnets to help keep that acetate in place and give that glue a little bit of time to dry while applying pressure, so I know that acetate isn't going to go anywhere. Once I'm ready, I'll go ahead and grab some foam adhesive. This is a 1/8 of an inch wide foam strip, and it is 3 millimeters thick, so plenty of room for my shaker elements to move and thin enough to fit on the back side of this frame. I peeled it off the release paper from the sheet of foam adhesive, but I also peeled off the backing, so that way my foam, it was sticky on both sides, but it allows me to curve and round my foam around the design of the hearts. So once I have all of that in place, I'm going to trim wherever I need to stop or where my adhesive runs out. And because I'm creating a shaker, I want to make sure that my adhesive foam strips really butt up against each other, so there's nowhere for my shaker elements to escape once I finish putting this shaker together. So I'll go ahead and finish adding the foam, again just completely covering those hearts on the back side of the acetate and frame. And once those are in place, I'm going to start adding in my shaker elements. Now, I apologize, I missed a little bit here because I forgot to hit record again, but I started by pouring in some of those Love Shaker beads, which are a red, pink, brown, and white mix. And once I'm happy with how many I have, I'm going to add the strawberry Valentine mix, which has adorable strawberry confetti, as well as some white, red, pink, and brown clay hearts. So once I'm happy with how much I have in my little shaker window, I'm going to add it onto my card backing by using my Misty. So I have a little Misty here. And this is going to be an A2 piece of paper. So like I said, I did cut out this background twice. So I'm using one as a guide, but I'm using this to figure out where my shaker element is going to go. I'm making sure it's even from left to right, it's high enough where I want it, and then I'm grabbing the actual backing for the card and I'm fitting it into the corner so that way it will be mirrored exactly how I want it onto my card backing. Another way you could do this is just add another piece of acetate that you've cut out of the hearts to the back side so it's clear all the way through, and then you can attach it to your card front. But that's just how I like to use my Misty when I'm putting shakers together. Now that my shaker is onto my background, I think the hard part is done and we can start decorating the rest of the card by creating the berry basket. Once I'm happy with my rough draft of how I want to place everything in the berry basket, I'm going to go ahead and start gluing everything together. So I'm going to start by adding the little flowers onto my leaf cluster, and then I will start assembling the berries and leaves on the back side of my berry basket. I'm going to use the same 3mm foam adhesive at the bottom of my berry basket so they're on the same kind of dimensional level as my shaker hearts. Then I'm going to use liquid adhesive, starting with the berry that I want to be at the front and then adding more elements behind that. So I added another strawberry, my leaves with flowers, my last large strawberry, and then I'm going to use those two smaller strawberries at the front of the berry basket. So I'll go ahead and get this attached to my card base. So I know I have some foam adhesive at the bottom of my berry basket, but I also need to add a little bit more stability along the left side so that on the back will be the right side of my berries. And then there's a little bit room in the middle for me to add some foam adhesive as well. I'll go ahead and apply some liquid adhesive to the large strawberry and the leaves where I know they will overlap with the shakers on the card front. Once I have enough adhesive, I'll go ahead and glue that down. I'm going to do my best to get this centered. I'm going to use a magnet to help keep that A2 card front in place and then attach my berry basket. I centered it from left to right and did my best to make sure that there was an even amount of white cardstock underneath the berry basket as there was on top of the heart shakers. I'm going to add those last two little strawberries to the front of the card. Part of my strawberry will be sticking out past the berry basket, so I'm going to use some foam adhesive to attach that portion of it to the background and liquid adhesive where it overlaps with the brown berry basket, and then add that last strawberry. Once those are in place, I'll go ahead and kind of pick up. I do want to add a sentiment to my card as well, but since we've already been here for quite a while, I'll go ahead and just add my sentiment with clear embossing ink and use white embossing powder to create my XOXO sentiment from the Valentine greeting stamp set, and I used the coordinating die to cut it out. I added some adhesive to the back of my card front and I'm attaching it to a top folding A2 card. I'm going to use liquid adhesive to attach this sentiment. You could also use some adhesive strips or double-sided adhesive tape. And I'm just going to attach that to the center on those little heart shakers. That will finally finish off this shaker card. I had so much fun putting it together, even though I know there was quite a few steps to make this card. But I hope you had fun with me today and that you combine the new Valentine strawberry mix from Pretty Pink Posh with the berry stamps and dies. I think they look so cute together and I hope you like it too. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!